Before we jump into this episode, I want to remind you that while Caitlin and Sophia are dietitians, we're not your dietitians. This means the information shared in the Food Freedom Fertility podcast is intended to entertain, educate, and inform. It is not a substitute for medical care. This information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making any changes.
Welcome to another episode of Food, Freedom, and Fertility. This is our final episode of our summer interlude season, which is funny because we are now really in fall, at least where I live. But we are very excited to wrap up this mini season of celebration Win Wednesday episodes with our final kind of excitement episode with one of Sophia's clients. So Sophia, why don't you share a little bit about our guest today and we'll jump into it.
Yeah, so we are here today with Jenny. And I have been up her butt for days about trying to get this episode recorded. But we've been sort of waiting because Jenny wanted to make sure that she told all the right people and that things reached the right milestones and everything. And, I get the privilege of being in this position is getting to know when people are pregnant, like really early. So I've been waiting, so happy to finally hear the whole story because I haven't even heard the whole story. I've just known the parts of it that I've been involved in, but I know there was much more than that. And so today we have Miss Jenny with us. Jenny, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you for having me.
So happy to have you.
So Jenny's a sweet little soul. She is a dog mom. She has a beautiful hound dog and chickens in her
Ooh.
backyard named Mary Kate and Ashley. And who were the other ones? Paris and
Oh.
Nicole or something? What are you?
Romy and Michelle.
Romy and
love it.
Michelle. That's right. Yes. And so she's got all the little animals. And this is, some of you may be like, who the hell cares? But that's actually pretty rare and cool in coastal San Diego. That's like very rare that someone would have any sort of chicken or any farm animal at their house. So she's got a fun thing going and she is pregnant. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
All right. Can we see the bump? Can you show us, give us a little view?
Yeah,
I don't know
I
if
can
you've got
show
like
you.
wires on your
No,
headphones or
they're
something. Stand up.
wireless.
She's like, you told
Oh,
me this
perfect.
was shoulder up and I didn't expect to have
I know.
Here's my
Look, you can see
lingerie.
it. I can't.
How far along's that little bump there?
Almost 16 weeks.
Wow, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, hitting that 4th month. That's really when like a lot of the ickiness finally lifts and you start feeling a lot more energy, at least in my
Yeah.
experience and a lot of the stories I've heard. So
And start showing
congratulations,
some
truly.
because sometimes it's like you feel really crappy and you don't want everybody to know why. But like once it becomes obvious, eventually it's like, oh, okay, maybe she's walking slow or looks
Yeah, and when
tired.
it's like obvious
Yeah.
that you're pregnant and not just bloated or not just like sort of, oh, she's sort of getting chubby.
Right. Yeah, I definitely, it still doesn't feel totally real. So seeing that, like that growth does help make it feel
Comfort you a little bit
a
in
bit
that
more
way.
real. Yeah. Hmm.
So, Jenny, our listeners are dying to hear the story behind where this TTC journey began, kind of what you've been through, the wave top moments, the easy, the hard, the big revelations, the corners turned, and how you've landed beautifully pregnant at 16 weeks with this sweet baby.
Yeah. So my husband and I, we started trying right after we got married in 2022, early 2022. And yeah, it didn't happen right away. Tried. I tried to see a doctor. I kind of just felt like something was off. A lot of people just said, keep trying. It takes so long. It takes, healthy couples a year. And I just felt deep down like I felt like I needed to be seen. I found a doctor in early 2023 that finally would take us in. It hadn't been quite a year yet, but I was almost 35. So at that point, it would have been 6 months that they would want to see me. So I started seeing this doctor in early January 2023. And sorry, I'm just going to like reset myself.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. I want to take a minute out of this episode and talk to you about our partner, Fertility Cloud. We decided to partner with Fertility Cloud this season because we have worked with women all over the nation and we have heard the same issues arise again and again. My doctor can't see me for another 8 weeks. I had to wait 3 months to see a specialist, and even then, they didn't really tell me anything. Or there's no one in my small town that knows anything about my situation or can help me. And that's so common because unless you live in a major metropolitan area or a place that has grand medical universities, and honestly, sometimes even then it's still an issue, it's really hard to find fertility specialists who can give you tailored, customized help for your unique fertility situation. And that, my friend, is exactly what Fertility Cloud does for you. They offer everything you need, but right in your home because it's fully online. Another perk is they often have same day or next day appointments, so no waiting weeks and weeks and weeks in order to be seen by someone. And my favorite thing of all, really the pièce de résistance and the reason we are partnered with Fertility Cloud for this season, is they have a love and a passion for helping families grow. It is why they do what they do. It is why they wake up in the morning. It is why they have this world-class staff who cannot wait to step in and help you along your journey. So if this sounds like what you have been dreaming of, click the link in our show notes and go to fertilitycloud.com for $50 off your first visit. Take your
Yeah.
time. And I know that this is a really emotional story too.
Yeah.
And so take your time. And you don't have to hide your
Hmm.
emotion either. This is very real. And I feel emotional just talking about this here, but think about if you were talking to you 2 years ago when this was first happening, and how hard it was going through all of that. If you could have like a transmission from the future coming back and telling you, here
Hmm.
are the steps and here's what happens, that's what this is for
Yeah.
women who are where you were 2 years ago.
Yeah. So I started to see this doctor in 2023, and she was very put a lot of things off. I had a lot of questions. I had done a lot of research. I was on Reddit and Google, late nights.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I wanted to have this HSG done, and
Mm-hmm.
she was very kind of dismissive about it. Um, and I also remember asking her, like, what kind of supplements should I be taking? What about my diet? And she just said, stop Googling things. Go on to the ACOG
Uh-huh.
website and look
Oh
at things
God, what a
there.
treasure trove of nutrition information that
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, and I just felt like you can't dismiss that if I go and eat McDonald's every single day, like that's not going to make a difference,
Mhm.
so that was frustrating for me. Um, and then I did finally get her to schedule the HSG for me, and that turned out to be fine. No issues there. Um, and then the cycle after the HSG, I got pregnant, and I thought, like, this is it. Um, and I told my friends, and that I quickly had a loss there. I think at 5 weeks. Um,
Mm,
so that,
I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
it was hard because I really thought, like, okay, I had this HSG done. I thought that maybe it flushed some things out, and things were happening.
Mhm.
Um, and then my doctor said, try again. It happens, essentially. And
Mm,
um, so we kept trying, and we got pregnant again, and the same outcome, two more times. And I
too many
yeah,
times.
too many.
Jeez.
And it was frustrating because I also, the second time, I really thought, okay, like, this is it. I had had a lot
Mm.
of friends that had one loss and then went on to have healthy babies. So I thought that was it. Um, so I was really, I mean, I remember just late nights, go Google, Reddit, trying
Mhm.
to.
Find solutions or what could be.
Mhm. So I asked for some different testing to be done. I brought in a huge list of things, and she ended up testing for some of the major ones, which was frustrating for me because it's like, why my insurance is going to pay for it. Why do I have to fight to get these tests done? And why wasn't it done earlier?
Mhm.
That was
Mhm.
frustrating. But in the end, all of those came back normal. So I was still at a point where I don't know what to
No
do.
answers. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm still, I was taking lots of different supplements because, that I was finding online. I'd worked with an acupuncturist that had really helped me a lot and had guided me on that front. And I ended up finding another doctor who actually told me, why don't you stop trying for a little while? Um, which was hard for me to hear because I didn't want to stop trying. That was the last thing I wanted to do, but I needed to hear that because I never would have stopped trying on my own. Um, and
Mhm.
who knows how many more losses we would have had.
Mhm.
So we stopped trying. I had a biopsy done to check for endometriosis, which was positive. She did a ton of different tests that I hadn't had done before. Um,
And was there a difference in these practitioners? Like this new doctor, was it a different type of doctor? Were you at a fertility clinic at both times? Like,
the new doctor I went to was a fertility clinic. She actually was an IVF clinic, and I had been avoiding her or other clinics because I just felt I wasn't there yet. And I had had a consult with some other doctors who had kind of just told me, you need to do IVF. It's the only thing that's going to work. But that scared me because I was afraid of what if I go through all of that. It's a lot emotionally, financially
mhm,
to take on, and then I end up in this same situation.
right. Because there's no
Mhm.
guarantee there. People think that there's a
Mhm.
guarantee, right? Like that this
No.
is gonna work
Yeah.
because we have all the puzzle pieces and then we put it in the little box that a puzzle goes in and that's what should happen. But like if you really go
Mhm.
look at the statistics, there's not a lot of reason to hope in IVF beyond like what would just happen in natural conception in most cases.
We are so glad you're enjoying this episode, and we want to take a brief moment to talk about one of our sponsors, Fullwell. Fullwell is not only a reproductive nutrition supplement company created and formulated by a registered dietitian, but they are a company that has the highest quality standards. They use the most bioavailable ingredients in the right amounts to ensure that you're getting the most out of your supplement. And let me tell you about one specific supplement, the Fertility Booster. The Fertility Booster is a combination of adaptogenic herbs and powerful antioxidants. Oxidative stress is something that occurs in every single body, and when it's accumulated, it can deplete antioxidants. Upping the antioxidants in the body by turning on the antioxidant protection system through food and supplementation is one way to support the body's free radical defenses and better support fertility overall. Oxidative stress impacts all humans, and this is one thing I love about the Fertility Booster. It helps supercharge both egg and sperm quality. You've heard about stress and how it can impact so many things in our body, and how so many people just say, hey, just relax and you'll get pregnant. Well, ashwagandha is actually an adaptogenic herb, and it can help reduce cortisol levels and increase sexual function. So the next time someone tells you to just relax, you can say, hey, no, I don't need to just relax. I'm taking the Fertility Booster by Fullwell and supporting myself in this way. When we talk about powerful antioxidants, one of them that is the king of the show is coenzyme Q10. In its reduced form, It functions as an antioxidant in cell membranes and lipoproteins, helping to optimize fertility. And the queen of the show, in my opinion, N-acetylcysteine. It's a supplement form of cysteine, a semi-essential amino acid that benefits fertility via its role as a precursor to glutathione. It can also support healthy cervical mucus. So, next time you're ordering your Fullwell Fertility Prenatal, make sure that you grab a hold of their fertility booster so you and your partner can get a healthy dose of these antioxidants and stress support. Use the code FFF20 at checkout to get 20% off your first order. And now back to our show.
Yeah. And I think that there's a place where it does help and it works, but without doing all of that testing beforehand, I just felt like that it would be a waste, and I just was really scared to do all of that. Yeah. Yeah. So when I met with this doctor, she actually, before I even told her any of my feelings on it, she said, "I don't think that you're there yet for IVF. I think that there's some more things that we should look at," which was really, hopeful for me. So we did the biopsy for endometriosis. That was positive. I started to really look into why, or I started to really look into the symptoms of that. And throughout this whole time, I had been trying to work on my health, my diet, my nutrition, and I was kind of at a loss, I would say, with it, because there's a lot of different things out there. Stop eating gluten, stop eating dairy, and a lot of different, yeah. So I had done a lot of searching with that, and maybe too much,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I decided I wanted to have the surgery because the other option was to do Lupron suppression, and I had done some research into that and didn't feel comfortable with it. And after I had done research on endometriosis, I thought, I want to get this out of me. If this is going on, I want to fix the problem. I don't want to just suppress it. And I
Yeah.
did some reading about it and realized maybe it wasn't so silent. A lot of people have silent endometriosis, and I would say I had no idea that this is what I had going on, but after the
You
fact,
had, from my recollection, you had what I would call indoor voice
yeah,
endometriosis. Some people have like screaming across the parking lot endometriosis. Some people have silent endometriosis. I would say you had an indoor
yeah,
voice endometriosis. Like, it wasn't no symptoms, but they weren't so screaming that it was like blatantly obvious that that's what was going on.
yeah. And at the same time, I thought that that the symptoms I had were normal.
We're just part of being a woman.
You have
Yeah.
cramps, you have heavy periods. That's life. Yeah.
You have leg pain, you have back
hmm
pain. Yeah.
hmm Yeah, and I had talked to some friends and about their periods, and they, said, "Oh no, I don't have cramps like that, or where I have to have a heating pad, or I just really don't want to go anywhere for a day." And I thought, okay, maybe it's not so
Mhm.
normal. So I had the surgery, but before I had the surgery, I'd actually found Sophia, and I was at a point where I knew I couldn't try, but I felt like I really needed to be doing something.
Yeah, that idea of just like being able to move forward and you're not feel like you're just treading water, but like the boat dropped you a mile off land. You know you got to get to shore, but like just treading water might take you further out is kind of how it feels, right? Like what's the tide going to do with me? But then if you start at least like dog paddling, like you're reaching for something, and that feels better than
Mhm.
like just staying there and the sharks come. It's like, this is a
Right.
terrible analogy, but it's
Yeah, this is
being able to
scary.
like do something feels good in the not I don't even want to call it a placebo, but being able to say like I gave up
Has some
caffeine.
agency over
Yeah.
what's going on, and that, like, I regardless of this outcome, Maybe I'll need IVF, maybe not. Maybe I'm having the surgery. I don't know. Who knows what's coming down the line, but I'm going to go into it ready. I'm going to do what I can do. I'm going to nourish my body. I'm going to balance my blood sugar. I'm going to rest. I'm going to move my body the way it needs to. I'm going to really take care of myself to where all of those things are, the boxes are checked. And maybe I do need some medicine. So when I take it, that shit works instead of, oh, I don't know, maybe another dose, blah, blah, blah. Well, let me try all of these things. None of this worked. I guess maybe I'll try diet and lifestyle.
Well, diet and lifestyle is always going to set you up for more health, right? Like whether you're pregnant or you're not.
Amen.
Like take care of yourself. It seems so rudimentary, and yet it's a hard thing for us to do. So that, Jenny, like that
Very
sentiment
true.
you have is, I think everybody's going to relate to that. Like you had to feel like you were doing something.
Yeah, I felt like I couldn't just sit around and, I had to heal, so I knew I couldn't, go out and I couldn't try, but I think, yeah, and I think anybody who's in the trenches of trying to conceive can relate to that. Just you people tell you to relax or not, try not to think about it, but it's on your brain 100% of the time.
Especially when you're dealing with trauma and grief, like what you went through, and losing a pregnancy, let alone 3, like that's legitimately traumatic. That's legitimately traumatic. And so to just think that you're going to like go on a vacation or try not to think about it, that's really not realistic in this situation. When you're talking to somebody who's tried for 2 months and they're like obsessing and doing all this crazy stuff, okay, you can tell that girl not to think about it because she is, going crazy. But when there's legitimate medical problems, which we discovered was absolutely the case for you, not thinking about it isn't going to heal that endometriosis. It's not going to rejuvenate that crusty corpus luteum. It's not going to do those things. And so it's not appropriate for when there's actual medical problems, which is what you were
Jenny, the
experiencing.
other thing that really stands out to me in this story is like you are the poster child of when you're allowed to ask for more help. Like you have experienced wrongly, like hear me clearly. Waiting a year when you already intuitively know something's wrong is not right. And then like barely maybe talking someone into doing some more testing because you're almost 35, where that year gets to shrink in half to 6 months. And then you have a loss and you're told just to keep trying. Like that, in my opinion, that's like medical abuse. Because if you're asking for more,
Exactly.
like look under the microscope, open me up, like look at the lab work, do some tests, look at my husband's semen analysis. If you're asking for that after one loss, you should be given that after one loss. It is torture to send someone along their way to have 3 losses before anyone will help you. I'm so sorry.
Because for them, it's like an academic endeavor, but for you, this
Those were
is
your
your
babies.
life. And like that's what people have to say. I tell people to say that, like, look at your doctor's face and say, listen, this is my life. Like, this isn't just a chart that you're writing in. Like, this is my life. Like, I need this. And usually that kind of helps them snap out of their, like, whoa, I'm just trying to make it to the end of the day because I've been holding my bladder for 6 hours because I have to see 40 patients today. It helps them sort of like get the humanity back. But anyway, so you found me. Tell us more.
Yeah.
Sophia.
So I remember I reached out to you because I wasn't really sure, like, is this the right thing for me to be doing? I can't even try right now. Uh, I'm really trying to heal from this surgery and also to heal endometriosis. I don't want this coming back. So I wanted, to know if this is
Well, you
something.
had the surgery after we had
I
started
did.
working together. But very quickly. It was like we started working together and then you went and had the surgery like really
That's
quickly
right.
after that.
Yes. So I found you, and I knew I was having this surgery, so I was still in a time where I couldn't try. And then I wanted to know if this was going to be the right thing for me to do. And um, yeah, and I felt like it truly was. I really needed help with my nutrition. I was struggling with, too much information. Yeah, I was struggling with much information and constantly restricting myself from dairy or gluten, or and that didn't make me happy because I was
Why not? You don't want to eat pizza and like
You
Alfredo
don't
pasta?
like lattes?
yeah.
So shocking. A croissant? You can eat a croissant?
Cheeseburgers? You're not into those?
Love a
Weird.
cheeseburger.
She likes raw celery. That's her
Yeah.
indulgence.
Beet salad.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And so I signed up for the cohort, and it was really one of the better things that I did. I'm really grateful that did that, and that you
Oh,
put that on for us.
I haven't been a
good.
part of one of her cohorts.
Neither
Tell
have we.
me a little bit about like what it was you signed up for. What like were you a part of her old class? Did you do group coaching? Tell me a little bit about what access you got to Sophia and what she taught you.
Yeah, so it was a group coaching class. Uh, she would send out learning materials beforehand for us to go over, and then we would meet once a week and could ask questions, could just talk about what's been going on the last week. It was nice to have other people to go through it with who were going through similar yet different stages. I mean, even though I couldn't try, I knew that time was coming, and I wanted to prepare myself.
Yeah, yeah. And it was one of the great things about group coaching. It's not just asking questions, it's often hearing other people's questions and experiences too. Because you wouldn't maybe think to ask something. That's a little further down the line than you are right now. But then you're a little further down the line than she is in another category. And so then you're like learning from each other and hearing other people's experiences and questions. And it's making you sort of look at your life and be able to put the pieces together. It's things you didn't even realize were pieces at times. And so it's not just like the support of having like the camaraderie of other gals. Don't get me wrong, that's incredibly valuable, but it's being able to learn from each other at the same time too. That's one of my favorite things about the group model.
Yeah,
Jenny,
absolutely. And I think it really helps because a lot of us, I know myself, go turn to like Facebook groups or Reddit forums for that information. And then you're just getting these little snippets. So it's nice to really have that group setting and have you there to help answer those questions so that you're not just left with,
Yeah, to where it's not just Susan from Toledo saying the blue Gatorade is what got her
yeah,
pregnant. Yeah.
Jenny,
yeah.
when you talk about like coming in from a state of overwhelm and trying things like going dairy free and gluten free and learning, and also you've kind of mentioned like you had areas that you needed to improve. Like, what were some of those bigger areas that were really helpful for you to kind of focus in on?
I don't think I was really eating enough. I don't think I was eating enough. I was eating what I thought was a healthy breakfast, but it
Which
was
was
maybe like 2 eggs.
okay.
That's it. Um,
So like 120 calories.
We're taking a break from this episode to talk to you about one of our wonderful sponsors called NutriSense. So this isn't just another health trend. This is a program that helps everyone take control of their health and fertility by making lasting changes based on their unique needs. NutriSense is loved by over 100,000 members, and it offers a unique combination of expert nutritionist support from credentialed experts with continuous glucose monitoring data insights. So it's science plus a human touch, and it offers one-on-one support from the expert nutritionist team at NutriSense. So basically what NutriSense does is it gives you the support you need along with the data that you're getting from a continuous glucose monitor. Combining those two together with NutriSense offers you a science-backed way to take control of your health unlike anything else out there. It's access to the continuous glucose monitor as well as guidance from a nutritionist so that you can interpret this data and turn it into lasting results in your body. If you've listened to this podcast for more than 90 seconds, you know that we really don't believe in like a one-size-fits-all nutrition plan, and that things really need to be tailored to an individual for their personal health and fertility goals in order to succeed. And that's really what NutriSense offers. If this sounds like something you're interested in, which, P.S., you should be interested in this, head over to nutrisense.io/FFF and use the code FFF50 to get $50 off your first month with NutriSense.
So having Sophia's
The
help,
60-calorie
yeah.
breakfast.
But in my head, I thought, okay, well, I'm getting some protein. I'm getting, I thought this was a good breakfast. So yeah, having Sophia's help and guidance with that and plating your plate was really helpful. And my husband, I showed him some of it and he would be very happy to help. And I think for him, there's not a lot that he could help with in that sense. So if it was like making me breakfast, then that was helpful for him.
Yeah, last time I saw him, he was like, have you been telling her about the breakfasts I've been making? Have you been showing her the breakfasts I've been making?
He's very proud.
And you were like, no, I don't do that, but I'm sure she'd be happy to see
Jenny,
it.
where are you in the country? Are you local in San Diego?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
I'm in.
She's just down the road from me. She lives across the street from where my husband was living when I met him. In fact, her husband is my husband's old neighbor.
Way. What a
Yeah.
small world.
And it is so funny because I did not realize this because she had her maiden name on her like Instagram account that I was talking to. And so we had a mutual friend that was like, hey, my friend Jenny, this, that, and the other thing. Meanwhile, I'm in the middle of like enrolling people in this course. So I'm getting like DMs left, right, and center. And so I have her coming in and her name is like Jennifer Van Trapp or something like, I don't like a totally different name in her Instagram profile. And so I'm just treating her like any old person. I didn't even, and looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have known. Not that I said anything bad, but I think I was like a little more of a hard ass than I could have been. I just wasn't as like, oh my gosh, yeah, welcome, hi. Like I was just a little bit more like,
Businessy.
are you like some stranger from the internet or like, what is this really going to be? And it took me way too long to put it together. And it wasn't until I don't even know. I think it wasn't even until I like came over to your house for the first time that I was like, "Oh, that John. That's who you're married to."
I think
Oh,
that you were doing something with billing or something, or Louis was doing something and said, "Oh, you have
that's
somebody
right.
in IB."
And yeah, and he was like, "And they live on my old street."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What? Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh." It was so funny. And then I was like, "Oh my god, I remembered your husband was like the guy that had turned this like tree stump outside his house into like a beer cooler or something." And he I'm pretty sure that was him. I might have that wrong, but it was like
That's memorable.
he's always tinkering and doing stuff,
Yeah.
but like I did not realize that I had, because you had been living in a different house for a little bit. You'd like rented out my other friend's
So hold
house
on.
and we're living
Have you
there.
met Romy and Michelle and Mary Kate and Ashley?
Oh yeah,
Have you eaten
I
eggs
have.
from them?
I think I have. What I remember most is that my Jenny, my little baby Jenny, came walking out from her backyard in such a state, like so much chicken poop on her in a way that was like inexplicable. Like it didn't look like the chicken had pooped and she'd like fallen and laid in it. It, it looked like there had been
Nerf
like
gun chicken poop
a, a
war?
a Nerf gun of poop. Yeah, like a poop cannon had like blasted her. And she like comes up and there's like feathers stuck to it and she's like, "Oh." We had to put her in Jenny's shower. It was like so much poop. It was like, and it wasn't like a smear, it was like pieces of it. Louis and I
It was all over.
Louis and I still talk about what a mystery that was, because it was truly mysterious. Like, how did that much poop get on her? It wasn't like there was like a heap of it somewhere in the yard. It was a mystery.
Yeah,
The
it
chickens
was
pooped
it
on her
was a
real
lot.
bad. Well, okay, enough of the chicken poop talk. It was a very funny way that we figured out that we actually knew each other, in that we had crossed paths in other ways, and I had not put this
I love
together at
that.
all. And then, well, back to your story,
That's why
because
we're
you
here.
started working with me. Yeah, that's why we're here. We started working together. You were in my very first group coaching group. You had the surgery. Lo and behold, they found
They
endometriosis.
did. They found stage 2 endometriosis, pretty much everywhere. I removed it all. I went to a surgeon that did excision. Um, yeah,
Same
Mhm.
surgeon?
she was great.
Different
The
surgeon?
same
Same
surgeon.
Okay.
Hmm.
surgeon. Surgery
She
twins. She was the one that, like, gave me a little overalls to wear so that I wouldn't
Oh,
have, like, pressure on my belly, uh, like a little step stool to get in and out of
yeah.
my bed, these big ice packs, a wedge
You're the best,
pillow,
Jenny.
gas medicine. Like, she styled me out after surgery really good. Really, really wonderful.
Yeah, I had done a lot of research for that too. Just like I wanted to be comfortable and yeah,
Mhm.
and to heal well. And I think that the surgery, it went really well. I did heal pretty well. One thing that she told me was to get out and walk, so that's what I did.
Mhm.
And I I didn't expect my first period after the surgery to be as rough as it was.
We both have said
It
that.
was not fun.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
was really painful,
Yeah.
worse than before. I remember I
Yeah, and I was like, "Was this whole thing a
yeah.
bust? Like, did I just, like, go through all this for nothing? In fact, did I F myself up by doing this surgery?"
Yeah, I wondered that a
Worried.
lot. Yeah. And I even reached out to the doctor's office. Is this normal? And they said it's totally normal. I just, I had no idea to expect that. So
Mhm.
yeah, we couldn't try for, I think it was 8 to 12 weeks after the surgery. So throughout the whole cohort, we weren't trying. But I was making a lot of changes. I was looking at my supplements, go with the recommendations that Sophia had, and I was looking at my diet and the food I was eating and really trying to make some changes there and have more protein, have, you know, more fulfilling meals.
Yum.
I was definitely a culprit of I was somebody who would forget that I was hungry at lunchtime, and then the next thing you
Mhm.
know, it's 1:30, 2 o'clock, and I'm starving, and I just would eat a little bit.
Starving, scrambling to put something
Yeah, and
Yeah.
together.
living half your day with the power of 2 eggs. Like,
Yeah.
toddlers couldn't live off of that. To think that
Yeah.
a growing human needing to heal or trying to grow a new baby, I'm not saying this like, "Oh, Jenny, what were you thinking?" But for
Yeah.
listeners to hear, like, that's it's not only is it not enough food, it's really not prioritizing nourishment. And we are products of that in the society and culture we live in that values productivity and,
Mhm.
you know, isn't designed for us to really care for ourselves.
Yeah, and I think having the cohort right after, right before I had the surgery and after was really helpful too. Sophia had some recommendations for bone broth and different things like that.
Okay, so you had the surgery, you worked with me, then what?
And then so once we were able to start trying, we still worked with that same doctor that I was working with before. We did, I guess what you would call timed intercourse. Um,
Mhm.
so she would monitor, check my follicles, and before the surgery, I had a good number of follicles. I had a lower AMH, but my follicle count was good. When they would check my follicle count, they would always be like pleasantly surprised. So I felt like that was something I had going for me. It was a good sign. And after the surgery, my follicle counts were pretty low. I had I think maybe like 3 on one side and 1 or 2 follicles on the other. But I did notice
Mhm.
that my periods were getting better. Things were getting better. Physically, I was feeling better, and my doctor kept telling me, remember, you have a lot of healing going on internally. You may feel 100% better, but there's still a lot of healing going on within you. So that
Mhm.
that helped me to hear. And then I did my
How long was it after surgery that you felt like you were, like, well healed?
maybe 4 months, 3 months. I would say this was probably when I really started feeling good and feeling like my periods were better was April, May.
Okay. In January was your
Yeah,
surgery, right?
yeah. So probably
Mhm.
3 to 4 months. I felt good before
Mhm.
then. I felt healed, before then, but I didn't see these like tangible differences until then. I would say May or June, I started to see a difference in my follicle count went back up. And yeah,
Yay.
which was so and it was just one cycle all of a sudden. It wasn't like it gradually just went up. It was just from one to the next. It was back to what it was, if not actually, I think a little better than before. Yeah.
Mm.
And I had also been making all of these changes with my diet. So, but at the same time, I was getting frustrated, because I thought I got pregnant before. So why isn't it happening now? Now it's
Mhm.
just taking, it seemed like so long. I had started trying, I think 8 weeks after surgery. So, what's going on? I think we actually started trying a little earlier than that. My doctor said, 6 weeks, you're okay. The worst that's going to happen is you're just not going to get pregnant. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, so it just felt like at that point, the time felt like it was just stretching so long.
Mhm.
Um,
And then
Mhm.
what
whereas
happened? Were you still doing just timed intercourse or did you step up interventions?
yeah, we added in an IUI, we added in letrozole, we added in, yeah, that was about it. But
Didn't you do a post-ovulatory HCG?
a what?
Post-ovul like, after you ovulated, they give you, like, a HCG shot, and you were doing
Oh,
progesterone
I
shots too,
wasn't
right?
doing the HCG shot. I think I did it once. I
Oh,
tried it, but actually, yeah, I did try the
okay.
trigger shot once. And I
Okay.
was I was doing progesterone, so that was one thing that the class, Sophia really helped me to understand and to push for, because I had endometriosis. I possibly had progesterone resistance, and in the
Mhm.
past with my losses, I had asked for progesterone, and she would put me on it on suppositories when it was like I was already having the loss at that point. It
Mhm.
didn't
It
make a
didn't help.
difference.
Yeah, it wasn't early
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
Criminal! Ugh.
And I don't
So
know.
sorry, Jen.
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah, it was frustrating. And I don't know at that point if progesterone was the only issue.
Right.
I have no idea. But it was just frustrating that it wasn't even an option to at least try.
Mhm.
Um,
So were you
yeah.
doing progesterone
So
shots or did you have
now at
suppositories?
this point, I was doing the shots because I told my doctor how in the past I had done the suppositories, and since they hadn't really done anything, she suggested let's just try the shots. So, and I was up for that at that point.
Mhm.
I'll do anything.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, so we tried the shots. So after I would ovulate, she would confirm ovulation, and then I would go on the progesterone shots. She would, um, and then we would try, and I would wait for that 2 week wait. The progesterone was difficult for me because I couldn't just wait like a normal 2 week wait where I wait and I get my period. I had to test, and that was hard for me. Having to take a
Yeah.
test and then having to wait for my period to come
Mhm.
was hard because the progesterone would delay
It
it,
prolongs
and I
that.
so I would
Mhm.
stop
Mhm.
stop taking the progesterone, wait for your period, and then start over. And yeah, that was
Mhm.
difficult. Um, so yeah, so we kept trying. We actually decided, you know what, I thought I'm going to try IVF. Um, so I thought at this point it had been
Two and a
six
half
months, I think.
years.
Well, yeah. I mean, 2.5 years, but six months of since surgery. I was trying to give myself a fresh
Mhm.
start, like look at it as this is a new start. And we had been trying for about 6 months, and I had kind of given myself that timeline before. My husband and I talked about it. We said this, we'll just try. And I knew that I wanted to have a real break before that and have just no progesterone, none of, you know, none of
Hmm.
the
Like
things.
a washout almost
Um,
in between.
yeah, give my body a break. It was a lot on me. And so that's the cycle that I got pregnant. And
In
yeah,
the wild.
yeah, we
I love
we
it.
were ready to sign up for IVF, and we were supposed to start it in August and got pregnant in July.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And here you go with your so okay, you have to tell us, Jenny, what was it like when you took the test and it was positive? Like, and then like the emotional ride of that, and then telling John, was he there with you? Was he in a different room? Did you have to wait? Like, tell us the story.
Yeah, so I still had gotten my progesterone checked with the doctor during that time. We said we're going to take a break, but we were still, of course, going to try on our own.
Well,
And
you were still gonna come
yeah.
together. What did I say the other day that was super creepy? Come together as husband and wife in the marriage bed.
Yeah, it said it even creepier than that. You're like, oh
Oh,
man.
I said this just to creep her out. Okay, so you weren't gonna be
Yeah.
abstinent, and you weren't gonna like take birth control
Yeah.
pills, but you weren't gonna be
Yeah.
trying. Okay.
And so we did the progesterone check, and it was low. She said, you could go on just a little suppository. Um, and at this point, I didn't know I was pregnant, and I don't know that I was yet. I talked to my husband about it, and we said, if I want this to be a true break, I don't want to have to wait for my period to start and do all of that again. So let's just let this be a true break. So I really did not think that it was going to happen. I wore my watch, which would do my temperature, and
Mhm.
An Apple
saw,
Watch or a different type of watch?
yeah,
Okay.
an Apple Watch. Yeah, I also used the temp drop, which is great.
Mhm.
Um, I think I got the code for that from Sophia too. Yeah, yeah,
Ding. Hear
and
that, temp drop? Sponsor us
yeah,
already.
We give
and
you so
yeah,
much business.
yeah.
Maybe
So
Apple will sponsor us.
yeah, the app I
Yeah,
used the
dream big.
Apple Watch. I used the Apple Watch with the Natural Cycles app. It was just a little easier
Mhm.
for me. Sometimes, yeah, it was just easier to remember to put on, and
Yeah.
yeah, and I had it. So the I saw my temperature starting to drop, and I normally wouldn't wear my watch during the 2-week wait because it would stress me out. I would see my
Yeah.
temperature dropping, or like see it going high, and I'd get excited, or it would just cause more
You were
stress. Yeah.
traumatized. Yeah.
So I decided I'm gonna put it on. I want to watch for it. Like at this point, I told my husband, like, my period's coming. It's, this is it. And waited, waited for it, and then I saw my temperature go back up, and I thought that was really strange. So I thought, let me just take a test. And yeah, and it was 5 a.m. On a Saturday morning, and it was positive. And I, my husband was awake. He was in the other room. I went and like went over to him with the test in my hand. I said, I think I'm pregnant. And he said, you look kind of crazy, because my hair was all over the place. And he was confused because,
Mhm.
like, why am I even testing? Because I had told him that this wasn't it. And
Mhm.
yeah, so I immediately, uh, well, it was 5 a.m. at that point. I gave my doctor until I think 7:38 to call the after hours line. And she called me back within 30 seconds, which was really nice. And she told me to, start taking that progesterone that I already have at home, and
Mhm.
got me in on Monday for a blood draw and to talk with her. And we added a few other things in, kind of just a shot in the dark protocol.
So so people who are wondering, what are the few other things you added in? Was it maybe like a blood thinner? Was it like a what
Yeah,
did you
so
add
I
in?
did baby aspirin, Lovenox blood
Mhm.
thinner, which I'm
Mhm.
still doing.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
that was kind of a weird one because I had previously tested positive once for an APS, anti-beta 2. Yeah,
Antiphospholipid
yeah,
syndrome? Antiphospholipid
yes,
syndrome, yeah. It's a clotting
yeah.
disorder, autoimmune clotting
Um,
disorder for people that don't
but
know.
ever since then, I tested negative.
A common reason for repeated pregnancy
Yeah,
loss.
yeah. And every other time I had tested negative for it, and that, I had seen that one on the list of your um, blood tests to ask for. And so I said, I tested positive for it once. I know that every other time it was negative, but could this help and would it hurt? And she said it wouldn't hurt. So let's try. The other thing she had me do was intralipid infusions. So I did those locally.
Mm.
Yeah, weekly until week 10. And then she had me do Benadryl and prednisone, a low dose of prednisone, just
Mhm.
as a,
Just keep inflammation low,
yeah,
keep the immune
keep,
system from getting too
hmm
crazy.
yeah. And I did all of that until 12 weeks. The Benadryl was tough. It was 3 Benadryl a day. And
Oh,
yeah,
good
yeah, I
night.
was basically, I mean, I was already tired, I think, from pregnancy,
Yeah,
but
early pregnancy, you're already tired.
yeah, the Benadryl really made it a lot more difficult. Um,
But now here you are,
yeah,
and it's 16 weeks
yeah, it's crazy.
in
We've
a place you
had,
never have been
no, never
before.
been. And it, I thought, okay, let me just the beginning was really, really hard for me. Getting through those betas was tough. Um, because,
Yeah, that's where the betas are where they're drawing your blood and, like, measuring all the time, "Is it rising? Is it rising? Is it
hmm
rising?" And if it's you get even one that's not rising, that's really bad news. And so even if it's been rising for weeks, if you get one where it's falling, that's kind of the kiss of death.
yeah, and that was in the past always the tell for me. For that was how I found out, was my beta is not rising, and the call from the doctor. So that
Yeah.
was a really stressful thing for me, and a stressful time. But yeah, we got through it. And reaching, being able to see the baby's heartbeat and then hear the baby's heartbeat and have different milestones was really comforting. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
fun. And then you got to go to the pumpkin patch and do, like, a photo for your
we did.
family. How
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah. And I mean, I will say, even now it's hard. Like, pregnancy after a loss is hard. Like, I almost
Mhm.
wish that there were a cohort like what you do, but for pregnant women who have
Pregnancy
question,
after
or
loss.
even just anybody, it's just pregnant people who have questions like, what is,
Oh, that's a good idea.
yeah.
Maybe someday when
Yeah.
there's more than 24 hours in a day, I can do something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's hard, and you turn to, again, Google and those things. But look, I found great
Yes.
OB, a great, support system. So it's been
I think it's
helpful.
interesting.
I'm so glad for you.
Like,
Yeah.
I heard you mention Google and Reddit, and I've just never personally been one that's been on Reddit. Is Reddit like forumy? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like thread. Like someone will start a thread being like, "Does anybody here think Angela from The Office was actually really into Roy?" And then like everybody goes, that's the top of the
Mhm.
thread. And then
Mhm.
everybody can just add in with like, no, she wasn't. Yes, she was. Here's my evidence,
I
blah,
just think
blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so it's just
it's an
like,
interesting thing in our culture and time, particularly because like you live close to Sophia and maybe you knew of her thing because of other people that know Sophia, but maybe not. And you signed up for her course or started following her online or started listening to the podcast. And like we actually are credentialed and have a background in this, but people are going and trying to get help and sometimes getting better help from these threads than that first doctor you saw. Like
oh, I
getting
see it
more
all the
information,
Yeah.
time.
getting more help, and yet you don't really know who it's coming from and if it is helpful or applicable to your situation or it's an interesting thing, listeners, when you're listening, not to say like only listen to this person or that person, but um what I do hear as like an underlying theme is I didn't have all the support I needed, so I had to reach out for that. And
Mhm.
also, Google and those things can become very scary. And
And extremely overwhelming, like so many cooks in the kitchen.
really, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah, they can be
interesting.
really scary, and I think in the end, what I was searching for was just somebody who had gone through what I had gone through and had had success, like, what did they do
Mhm.
differently?
Oh
And
my God, Jenny,
yeah.
you are that person right now.
You're giving
You
that
are being
gift.
that for all the other
I love
gals.
this.
Yeah.
You're giving that
Oh,
Yeah,
gift.
and I think that's something that everybody who's going through this looks for.
mhm.
Um, Yeah, and it's true because there is a lot of scary stuff on Google and Reddit too. So, you might find some really helpful and inspiring things, but you also find some scary stories that might
Some
stress
really dark
stress you
stuff.
out
And, but-
more than
and
yeah.
yeah, and you can't
All the
see
other things.
all the
Yeah.
things behind it. You
Hmm.
can't see, what somebody might have been doing or not be doing or their
It's like
history or and
watching
everything. You
famous
just
people
hear
get
like,
pregnant, right? Like you're like, "Oh, you're
mm-hmm.
48, but and you just had a baby," but then you learn that they had a surrogate and you're like, "Okay, it's not the same thing." You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, they used donor eggs, donor
right.
embryos, like, they did 14 rounds of IVF before they got there, like, it just something that's totally, ridiculous, but you just see, well, Mindy Kaling had a baby at 48, and then you look at yourself and think that
Normal.
that's
Mhm.
applicable.
Right.
So excited to tell you that the PCOS app is sponsoring this podcast episode. The PCOS app is a one-stop shop for all things PCOS. It's also your meal guide and inspo all in one. If you love listening to me on this podcast and you feel like, hey, I want Caitlin to be in my ear every day encouraging me about how to manage my PCOS, then you have to go download the PCOS app. We have curated articles to answer questions that you have about PCOS. There are short snippets in the PCOS Answers podcast exclusive to the PCOS app. We also have recipes where I not only give you the recipe, but teach you within the recipe itself what I have done to make it more blood sugar and hormone supporting so that you can take your own recipes and make them more PCOS friendly. If you've been looking for the Google of all things PCOS, with the filter of compassion and expertise that you get from Caitlin Johnson, RD, then you have found it in the PCOS app. Head to your Android or Apple store today, download it, and let's hang out.
Well, we are gonna bring this episode on home. So, Jenny, before we hang up, what do you want the girl who's listening to this right now to know? What do you wanna say to her?
Just to advocate for yourself, and if you think that there's something wrong, then listen to that and listen to yourself. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, reach out for help because yeah, I'm glad that I did as early as I did,
Mhm.
but yeah, I still, I still went through a lot that I didn't necessarily have to go through, I think.
Yeah.
Well, we cannot thank you enough for being so brave and open and truly generous with us and with this audience and with the ladies who are listening to this right now who are really standing in your same shoes 2 years ago, 1 year ago, 8 months ago, every step of the way and who are on Reddit and every other kind of thing, you are just giving her a breath of life that it's just irreplaceable, priceless. So thank you very much. You can tell your husband to come in and start slamming around.
Yeah.
Get on his
Yeah.
drumstick. 1, 2, 3, go.
I'll go
So,
first.
Caitlin, why
Yeah,
don't you give us a
I
yeah
have
girl,
two.
and then Jenny
One's
can
very
have an
brief.
example.
I have an email that's like, this is about to arrive at your house. Don't you love those emails when you're like, that thing you've been waiting for? It is this is so influencery, this new tripod-y thing that will hold my phone in the kitchen while I'm doing food videos. And I have like 10 food videos I've been waiting to record because I've been waiting for this thing to show up, and it's coming today. And I'm so excited. So that's my first yeah girl. My second yeah girl is a full circle moment. Like 4 years ago, I met a girl at a networking event in San Luis Obispo where I had my private practice. And it was for any dietitians that wanted to build a private practice. And she was a freshman at Cal Poly studying nutrition. And afterwards, she emailed me and was like, can I learn from you? Can I help you in your business? Can I just something? And she has graduated college, is doing her master's where Sophia got her bachelor's.
She's at Bastyr?
And she's doing her
Hot diggity.
internship to be a dietitian. And she was on this recording, just hanging out, listening to us record this podcast. And she's actually my dietetic intern now. So like it seems really silly.
Is she Ashley or
Exactly.
Paige?
Ashley.
Which one is she?
It's just so
Ashley.
fun.
That's where you're supposed to go, ask me, or that's me.
We watch too many toddler shows. Okay. But how fun is that? She's like, now she's almost a dietitian. And because we've nurtured a relationship over the years, she's at a distance internship and she gets to
there she is.
precept with me, which is like, I'm her preceptor for online business and stuff.
I
So
love it.
it's
How
really
cool.
fun for me. And
Yeah,
Paige is
girl.
just a special. I didn't know her 4 years ago.
A yeah girl from me. I was doing it right before this. It's super simple, but this dress I'm wearing is like loose fitting now. Last time I tried to put this thing on, I could not even like button it over my gut or my big milk boobs. But now it fits with ease and loose and comfort.
You're cute in it.
Yeah, it's just a linen button
it.
down. This perfect dress for, I wish I could show you more.
Give me my
Here's
legs.
what the bottom looks
Let me
like.
show you my legs.
Boom, boom. I fall and just bust my ass.
Rocket Sophia.
Yeah, so there it is. I'm fitting in this dress that I used to love that I couldn't really wear because I was postpartum large.
Yeah.
Now I'm postpartum medium.
I have, I think, 2 small ones, but we're starting to
Okay.
decorate for Halloween, which is really exciting for me. And I love this time of year. I've been waiting for it.
Yay.
So that's exciting. And then we got a dresser that my husband sanded down for me and I painted. It was my first I've been wanting to do a
DIY
project
flip.
like that. Yeah. And it turned out really good.
Ooh, I want to see a picture.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll
good
send,
for
I'll
you.
send a
Yeah,
picture.
send us a pic.
So fun. Yeah,
Put it
girl.
on the
Look at
pod.
you.
On our Insta. Yeah, girl. She's crafty.
She's crafty. She's got 4 chickens. When I come to San Diego, I'm coming over for an egg from Romy.
Yeah.
Or Michelle.
From Romy or Michelle or
Definitely
Mary Kate
from
and
Romy
Ashley.
or Michelle. They're more my favorite.
Yeah.
If you don't get these references, what are you doing listening? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, like who wants to go to town with a guy that drives a rowboat?
All right. Well, this has been another episode of Food, Freedom, and Fertility. Actually, this is a season wrap. So, Jenny, thank you for being generous with your story and bringing the season to such a beautiful close. We can't wait to see this little baby boy or baby girl, and we will pray for you guys for the rest of this journey. It just comes to the next.
Can't wait to meet the baby. When's baby's due month?
March.
Woo woo. Great month to have a baby.
Awesome. Coming up.
All right, Jenny. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Hey, it's Sophia. If you love the show and want to continue your health and fertility journey using our resources, head on over to foodfreedomfertility.com for show notes, links to products and services, information about our guests, and our newsletter. Again, that's foodfreedomfertility.com. Thanks for listening.